Will we have a retreat on Bowen Island this summer? Probably not. Maybe next summer. So we have a temporary ordination in which you can join in as a temporary monk or a nun for 7 days. And we have about 60 people coming from Hong Kong who do an ordination in here to become monks and nuns on a temporary basis. They will be in here. So we're not going to Bowen Island this summer. All right. Okay, next. What is the significance of our dreams? Well, it's a wide topic, but do not be obsessed with thinking about your dreams. Some people like to interpret dreams. Different books have different interpretations. Dreams like when you see a snake, what does it mean? When you see an elephant, what does it mean? When you see a deceased person, what does it mean? I mean, humans always like to relate dreams to certain things, to certain symbols. They create books about it. But all dreams are illusionary. Dreams will come out when all these other senses close. When your eyes close, your ears don't listen when you're sleeping, your nose, you don't have any fragrance coming in. All these other senses just reduce to the thinking consciousness. And the thinking consciousness works in the past, the present, and the future. When you worry about something, dreams of worry will come out. Then you may see, I don't know, like glacier, you may see the ocean, or you may see animals, wild animals, kind animals. When you have certain worries, maybe certain pictures of horror will come into your picture of dream, or when you think about a person that you love, then maybe you see, I don't know. All this are illusionary. Don't think that they mean a lot to you. It's the same as when you're not dreaming, you're thinking about, oh, there's a Mr. A who is in the States. I'm thinking about him. Don't be superstitious. Don't be obsessed with interpreting a dream. It may, by luck, you may interpret it right or you may turn it in wrong. Why don't we just concentrate when we are fully awake in what we should do, and don't just obsess with something that when you are not awaking. You're trying to find solutions, or you're trying to find about symbols, about dream. Why don't you find solutions when you are not dreaming? That's even more practical. Find a solution when you're not dreaming, when you're sober, when you have the determination, when you are filled with wisdom, when you're filled with compassion and kindness, when you are sitting here meditating on how I should be more compassionate, how should I change my relationship with my family members, how do I change my relationship with my colleagues, maybe I should do it this way, that way. Not be involved in a dream and try to interpret what the dream means to you about public relations. And some people even interpret what they think when they're intoxicated, when they're intoxicated with alcohol, with drugs. Yeah, think with an intelligent mind, not with a dreaming mind. Don't try to interpret dreams. Why don't you change it when you are sober? Determined to do it. I determined to be more compassionate, or stay away from religion. I determined to be more successful in my relationship with my colleagues, for example. I want to be more successful in my work. How do I get to be more welcomable by my colleagues? How do I perform my job? How do I improve my responsibility? How do I be more kind and considerate? How can I be happier in life? What should I pursue when I want to be happier in life? Try to interpret something when you are waking, when you have intelligence, and not when you are in a dream. Forget the dream. Dream is when we are using our mano consciousness, the mano vijnana, which is the sixth consciousness. And the mano consciousness likes to take into the past. Past not only of the present life, maybe of previous life. You may dream of something that happened many lifetime ago, that you brought to this, that the dream brought to this life, you still remember. I remember when I was very young, when I was a boy, about 8 or 9 years old, I always dream of a politician carrying out certain reform and sacrificing my life in a riot. I was being executed. Like I had that dream that I sacrificed my life in a revolution for certain politics, you know. So I also had dream when I had dreams about that I didn't come out before. But those dreams related to the previous life. But what's so interesting about it? We all have previous lives. Why don't you believe in the previous life and you believe in the next life, that you want to improve this one so that you can be better in your next life if you're not enlightened yet? If you can't get out from this life, why don't you just improve in the next life? I have students who became a monk or a nun who told me that she had dreamed about 2 or 3 lives, that I had been his teacher for 2 or 3 lives before. Maybe in the Ming Dynasty, in the Qing Dynasty, we met each other before in previous lives. That's possible. Your husbands, your wife, your children all have relations, unended business with you. Otherwise, they won't become your husband. They won't become your wife or your children. They all have unfinished business. Hopefully, this unfinished business is something good. If this unfinished business means that you cheated him before, he's going to cheat you in this life to get even, to balance out the general ledger. The credit and the debit always have to be in balance. So if you owe him something, owe her something, he's coming to get you. And when he got enough, you already repaid, then he divorced you, or you divorced him. The same goes true of the children. Say if you are a mom of 4 or 5, some of these children have unending bad business with you, and you spend all your money, and he'll make you sad. I knew a friend, she passed away already. I knew her back in Hong Kong. She belonged to a very rich family. She got married, and she had 1 daughter. And her daughter was so disciplined, so she get all the mentors for her, French mentors, English mentor, and really educated her and give her everything. All the luxury she wants, all the mentors in school, so she became a brilliant student at school, in one of the most famous schools in Hong Kong. And then she went on to further study in the States, get accepted by a Ivy League university, Harvard, I think, Harvard, yeah. And then she was so brilliant that she studied law, and afterwards she became a judge, a Chinese judge in a foreign country. And then after 1 month she committed suicide. And the mom was crying so miserably. When she received all these good things from her mom, and when her mom was really to enjoy the pride of her nurturing her daughter to be a magistrate, a very famous magistrate, she passed away. She spent all this money on her, all this love disappeared. And she later died in a year out of grief. And there are There are the sons and daughters who come back to get you. And there are sons and daughters who come back to repay you. They show their filial piety to you. They love mom and dad because you love them. You love them, and they came back to repay the love, and they love mom and dad so much. And there are some who hated mom and dad and came back to what? To get them. So they're all different. Your brothers and sisters are all different. Some brothers and sisters get along. Some brothers and sisters don't get along. They become enemies. Why? We all have unending relationships before. But what we did is we mourn over them. How come these things happened to me? I've been so nice to him. I've been so nice to her. How come she divorced me? How come she had another relationship that broke my heart? Because you did the same thing to her before. She came back to get you. Have you seen anything like that in life? Analyze them. So, let us build some good relationship among ourselves. Don't do anything bad on other people. They come back to get you. And don't just receive good deeds, you have to repay. It's just like in this lunch, for example. The fact that we can enjoy food in this lunch, somebody who was so generous to support our lunch so that we can meditate, we can run this temple, they donate. They donate lunch, they donate all kind of operating expenses for us so that we can perform the job, perform these missions. But don't just accept them. You learn to give too. People like to just to accept whatever given. They take it for granted. I want to accept. And sometimes some people even criticize the food. How come you give me this kind of food? It's just for free, but you guys got to prepare it well. You got to cook well. But have you ever thought of, why do I have to accept something free from someone? There must be a reason. They supported us. They supported us to be in a good meditation class. You didn't pay for it, but you're not allowed, you're not required to pay for it. And some people always think about, how do I reciprocate such a good favor? You reciprocate by being a good person. Reciprocate by extending your love to other people too, giving to others, not just accepting. In a family, everybody's thinking about, how did mom treat me? Dad, you got to give me this and give me that. Have you ever thought of, how do I give back to dad and mom and dad? By helping out with the household chores. When they get old, I support them also. When they supported me in my schoolwork, when they get old, I reciprocate my love to them. Have you ever thought of reciprocating your mom and dad for what they have done to you? Or you just forgot about it? You just drop them off in nursing homes. You just go there every Christmas. And you already think that you are great. You visit your mom and dad every Christmas. Have you done enough to reciprocate? Yes?
In meditation, what is your perception of that?
There's bound to be interferences. There are interferences outside your mind. But there are interferences outside your mind, but you have a mind to be absorptive of those interferences. There are bound to be interferences outside your mind, but there are many different kinds of minds. Some minds would not cling to them. In other words, all these interferences don't affect them. Some mind, very sensitive to them. Depends on what kind of mind that you have. But interferences does not mean that this is bad, how come you interfere me? These interferences are conditions that you have created for yourselves. Because there are certain causes and effects that brought forth these interferences to you. For example, if you come this morning for the meditation, all of a sudden you receive a call from your friend. Hi, John, can you join me in White Spot this morning? I want to discuss something with you. And then in your mind you say, I owe John $20,000. I don't want to see John. John said, no, you got to see me. This is an interference. And you say, how about after meditation? No, I want to see you now. I'm right at the entrance of your door. Is that interference? That's the interference that you have created because you owe him money. That's why he interfered you. And that could be interferences from a phone call. All kinds of interferences. Some interferences are good for you if you turn it around. What do I mean by that? Sometimes obstacles can heighten, can elevate your determination. You want to overcome it. Some hurdles, you say, I'm not afraid of this hurdle. I want to overcome it. This is an interference, but I want to overcome it. So your mind is, I want to overcome this kind of interferences. So the interference becomes something good for you. Because it builds up your confidence. It builds up your determination. So you don't treat an interference sometimes as bad. It may give you the injection of confidence. Because I want to overcome it. Some interferences are good. Depends on how you look at it. All right, so don't be afraid of interferences. When you have interfere, when you have obstacles, you just jump over it. If you get hurt, you just get up, put on your knapsack, and continue to go. Or better still, you remove the hurdle out so that it won't interfere others. So there's always bound to be interferences, unstopped, continuous interferences. How come you have those interferences? Because you have conditions in you that you meet those interferences. Because you make bad friend, because you owe him $20,000, because you like gamble and you like gamble, because you like to drink, you like to drink. You created all these conditions yourself. Don't blame your friend for it. You like his company. So there's so intricate, so many examples that you can't really, you can't really use one formula to apply to everything. No, there's so much. Some interference could work in your favor. Some interference is just interfering you. But as long as you have a strong mind, you don't have to cling to them. Good or bad. You don't cling to the good, you don't cling to the bad. You just be yourself. You'll be objectively observing your own meditation and not be affected. You won't be affected by the weather. Rain or shine, you will do this. It all depends on the mind. Everything originates from the mind. Yes? How did Buddha have that wisdom to know all these things that we didn't know, right? Imagine everybody, every one of us is a mirror, is a whole big mirror, right? And then our mirror, everybody's mirror has been covered with dust and dirt. You can't see yourself. You don't know the world because you don't have the reflectability. Because you're all blurred up, you're all obsessed by all the dust and dirt. You can't see properly. Because you can reflect, because your mirror of reflectability has been covered up by your emotions, your greediness, your jealousy, your hatred. But then, you started to do something about it. You started to rub this dirt off, bit by bit, clean this dirt off bit by bit. And after so much of this efforts has been done onto the cleaning, bleaching, and erasing and all that, all of a sudden you find out that most part of the dirt is gone, and you can reflect many, many things that you haven't seen before. And you continue to rub, continue to erase all this dust and dirt. Finally, you can see the whole world that you haven't seen before. That's exactly what happened to the Buddha. He couldn't see all this with wise eyes because he was all covered up by dust and dirt. But then he learned how to erase it. Erase it up to a point that boom, the whole world is reflected with one big mirror that he could see the galaxy, he could see everything, whereas when you were all confused, you couldn't even see one grain of truth. You understand? That's the analogy that we always use. The Buddha is all reflective now. You can be doing the same thing too. But you're too busy, you can't do it. You don't want to be involved in the rubbing. You don't want to be involved in the cleaning. The Buddha said, you can do the same thing as me as a normal person. I have eradicated all these mental afflictions of jealousy, hatred, greediness, and you haven't. But you can do the same thing by cleaning it up. So do you select to clean it up, or you continue to put on your dust and dirt? It's up to you, right? All right. It's a good question. How did the Buddha know about this previous life? How did the one who has a mirror that couldn't reflect all of a sudden reflect the whole galaxy? Because he cleaned up his mind, and we haven't. But you have that ability. You have that reflectability, even though you're covered by dust and dirt. You're covered by dust and dirt, but you haven't lost the reflectability. You just temporarily being covered by all these mental afflictions of jealousy, hatred, greediness, innocence, ignorance. But you have a chance to do it. But have you been doing it? Or have you been adding dust and dirt onto your mirror? You know.